Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Music, the show where we interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today I have Eric, the drum addict. He is a drummer. He also has a show called The Backbeat. He also customizes drums and like the list of his accolades can go on and on. How are you doing today, Eric?
Man, I'm doing good, Sean. Thanks for having me on, brother. I'm excited.
Hey, me too, man. And I want to dive into this. Tell me about how your passion for drumming started.
Yeah, so I remember being in the sixth grade, and there was this one kid, and who was, I think, in eighth grade. We had like shared classroom space because it was a small private school. But he had like longer hair, and he had like this really dope Def Leppard shirt, and then he was always carrying drumsticks around. And I'm like, that is the coolest cat I know. Like, I want to learn to play drums. And so my parents let me take lessons, and then my mom will still tell you today. She'll say I never had to tell Eric to practice. I just loved it from the very beginning. Even in that kind of that boring initial learning phase, it was still fun to me, all the stick control stuff and rudiments, which I kind of have gotten away from, and I need to do better about working those. But yeah, so I just loved it, and I loved it ever since. And that was, I'm going to date myself here, Sean. That was in like 1986 or 87.
Like, I always thought you were around my age, Eric.
How old are you?
28.
Oh man, well you're my new best friend. I love that. I love that you thought that. That makes me happy. Yeah, I'll be 50 in February, which is crazy. It's crazy to me. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel like at 50 because I don't know. So I'm just doing me, you know. Like,
yeah. Hey, you got the Benjamin Button effect, man. You age backwards. It's okay.
Sweet. I'll take it.
And how did you come up with the name Drum Addict?
Yeah, so we were living in Lexington at the time and planning on moving here to North Carolina, where we are now. And the house we were moving into was the house my granddaddy grew up in. So it's a really old farmhouse. And we had this upstairs, there's this like little attic kind of room. And I was like, well, drum attic? It sounded kind of like on the nose. And I was like, but it also kind of sounds like dramatic. And my degree is actually in theater and cinema performance. And then it also sounds like drum addict. So it sounds like it kind of plays on a couple different phonetic levels as well. And so we just ran with it, and it stuck. So even if we moved to a different space, it would still be the Drumatic. Even if it was like in a basement, it would still be the Drumatic.
Do you get a chance to bring some of your theater experience into the Drum Addict?
I think some of that training, like, has created like an ability to sit in front of a camera and talk, and also like I'm not intimidated to perform, like to play in front of people or to talk in front of people. I kind of dig that stuff. So I think it allows me to sit in front of a camera and just kind of be myself and not be super self-conscious about it. So yeah, I think in terms of that and just the idea of performing, I think it does kind of come into play. And obviously, like if you've ever seen any videos where Loretta and I have dressed up in costumes or just been generally theatrical, that's definitely some of that training. It's just that enjoyment of that type of work, like coming into what we do. We like to try to be entertaining, you know, with what we do, as well as hopefully a positive influence into people that are watching, you know.
Yeah. And I can definitely see it in your setup with your drumming room.
Oh, the kind of some of the theatrical stuff.
Like you have like the LED lights at the top, and it's the coolest drum room I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. It's kind of evolved since we started, and I kind of every now and then change things out because I get bored, with it. But yeah, so like, yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. There's nothing wrong with just turning on a light and having the room well lit, but that's that theatrical thing, like, and me, like, let's make it dramatic.
And one thing I noticed too was that the Drum Addicts motto is building relationships with your customers and artists. Do you mind telling me about a few of those experiences?
Yeah, sure. So kind of, it can be, I think it can be a little confusing. So there's kind of two separate but related entities. So we have the Drum Addict, which is our YouTube channel, drum covers, the backbeat, all that stuff. And then we have Addict Custom Drums, which is our custom drum company. And so our making connections or building relationships is like, we decided to kind of make it the motto of the business, which has kind of always been like the unspoken thing with the Drum Addict. So everything we do in both things kind of comes from a place of wanting to connect with people and invest into their lives, some hope, some faith, some love. And so the way we're able to do that with the Drum Addict is a little bit different than the way we're able to do it with the custom drums. So with our artists and our customers for the drum building, we want them to feel like they're part of our family, and that they're important. We're a small company, and so but we want each of our artists, regardless of what they're doing, to feel like they're the biggest rock star in the universe, and our customers too. I give the same amount of, in terms of builds, the same amount of attention to somebody that's not signed on with us. That's just, that's a customer just coming in to buy a drum or a set. And then we did get an opportunity to go see one of our artists, Stephen Hatmaker, play in Piedmont, South Carolina last year, which was super fun. I wish we could afford to go travel around and see everybody play. But yeah, I just feel like it's just all about relationship, building relationship. It's less about just like trying to experience growth. Although you want that, but at the end of the day, I want the people that interact with us to feel like they're a better person because we've crossed paths, Did that answer your question?
Definitely. And I know that means a lot to the people because it's a lot of drama companies out there, but as far as them feeling like they're a part of a family, I know those are memories that they'll carry on with them. And I think about a quote, people will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So I know that's probably a monumental moment for them too.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important that you build good stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
So we've gotten wonderful feedback and from customers and from the guys that have signed on with us, and I think people do want to work with people they like, which is important. So we can make them feel good, but if they don't like the drum, then then they feel good but have a terrible drum, right?
Yeah, that's a good
so
point.
I wanted to have both. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us, regardless of like I said, we're a new company, we're a small company, but I want to be able to maintain that even as we grow, and I think that's can be something that continues to set us apart, not just for a business standpoint, but that's just kind of who Loretta and I are. as people, really, you know, wanting people to know that they're valued and they have, you know, they have worth, and beyond just them buying one of our drums, you know. So yeah, that's kind of how we try to approach everything.
And Eric, I also wanted to ask this question while we're talking about building relationships with people. How has the YouTube drum community impacted your life?
Oh man, dude. I always say that it was one of the unexpected awesome things with doing YouTube. We didn't even know what we were getting into. We didn't know what to expect when we started our channel. And I've made some really cool friends through YouTube, you know, and there's 2 or 3 guys that I talk with on a regular basis, like offline, you know, just like this. And it's been cool because we've been able to connect with people around the world too, right? Like, it's cool that you and I are in different states and we're able to do this. But like, you know, I've chatted with people in Mexico, in England, in Germany, in the Philippines. Like, nice. It's brought Loretta and I a lot of joy just to make those connections and build those friendships with people that and there is no other circumstances in which we would have met, you know, except through the YouTube, you know, drumming community. And so yeah, and I feel like, I mean, obviously the drummers were out there, but I felt like Drumman 190 did a lot to, it was kind of the catalyst to kind of creating a community where people could connect and help each other build and grow and stuff. And then guys like Drums by Ash Wells have taken that and applied it and helped that grow, you know, even further. And it's just really neat. It's a really encouraging community. I've, like I said, you know, we've made some friends, and I've created a relationship with people where I know I can be like, okay, listen, don't BS me. What can I work on, you know, in the drumming? And they'll be like, yeah, man, hey, listen, maybe tighten up those buzz rolls or whatever it is, right? And because I respect them as people, but then as a musician, so you know, that investment into me helps me grow as well, which is, I think that's what it's all about. And I think most people, all the people in the community, nobody's going to give anybody, nobody's going to just be critical, because we're all at different places in our musical journeys. You know, we're all at different places in our abilities based on how long we've played or what, you know, there's so many things that come into play. So it's just always encouraging, and anybody that's doing it at any level and has the backbone to put themselves out there, you know, I mean, always, that's worthy of praise just by itself. That's worthy of a round of applause, that, you know, that you've taken the time to do it and you're working at it and you're growing and trying to get, you know, to get better. But I like to have people that I can go to and know that they're not going to just say that was good. They're going to tell me how I can make it better. And I don't think public forums for that in the community are the place for that. Usually those are the trolls that come through and and like just want to make you feel bad about yourself for a day. And they usually have no drum videos of their own. They just want to stop in and tell you that you suck, because that somehow makes them feel better about themselves. But yeah, but it's good to have that encouragement through the YouTube channel, and it's good to have people that you can go to offline that will give you constructive criticism. Criticism without how to fix it is just mean, right? But criticism from the standpoint of helping you grow and become better at what you're doing, that's helpful. You know, that's not a demoralizing thing. That's and I think if anybody ever thinks they don't have any room to grow, they've got a bigger problem, you know, than just, well, that's the problem. That's the attitude problem. I feel like there's always somebody there's always somebody better than me or better than you, right? There's always somebody doing it better that we can learn from. You know, no matter what level we're at, there's always somebody to look up to. And there's always somebody coming up behind us that's going to look, you know, that we can help teach and invest into. And sometimes you can learn stuff from people that are just starting out. They're not in their head about as much stuff. You know what I mean? Like, did that make sense? I don't know if that made sense.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because you're right. When you just starting out, you're like, hey, I just want to have fun. But after so many years, you start getting more critical. It's like more technical. So you don't want to lose the fun side of it. So then
right.
It just becomes work.
Yeah, and I think it's good to be reminded of that, right? And this has come up in a lot of the interviews that I've done for our Backbeat thing is do it because you love it, because you have fun doing it, right? If you start doing, like, especially YouTube stuff, if you start doing it just, if you start doing it just because you want to be a famous YouTube drummer, you're going to get disappointed super quickly. But if you're doing it because you love drums and you love making those connections, it's going to always be fun for you, you know? Even when you're struggling with a song or with a group, whatever it is, and you're working that out, even that work becomes fun, trying to accomplish that. But I think growth, in terms of YouTube, like, growth should just be a secondary thought, not the primary, you know, thought. But, you know, especially for YouTube drummers, you know, right? It is a good place. I've talked with lots of people that have used it kind of as a resume, you know, that's connected them with fans for them to play in. And I think it's good for that. Yeah. And it's fun to watch your channel grow, 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, right? But it's so easy to get, like, wrapped up in, oh, we didn't get as many subscribers this week as we got last week. What are we doing? Instead of just enjoying the journey and enjoying the process. And I sometimes have to come back to that because it's exciting to see numbers. And I can be obsessive about that stuff. So it's good to have somebody come in and just be like, I'm just having fun, man, and go, yeah, that's what it's got to be about all the time, every day. So, yeah.
And like that makes a lot of sense because when you are watching someone grow in their channel and you say, okay, they're trying new things, I'm seeing them actually grow, it's like you're a part of their journey.
Yeah, exactly. You feel like you're a part of it, right?
Yeah. And which drummers inspire you the most?
Oh, man, jeez. There's are you wanting, like, when I started playing, drummers that were inspiring me, or like drummers that inspire me now, more recently?
I guess both is okay.
Yeah, so we'll start at the beginning. Definitely different than what most drummers say. I grew up listening to really nothing but contemporary Christian music. So the guys that were players in the game back then, and some of them are, I mean, they're still players now. But the biggest one for me was a gentleman named Chris McHugh. He's a huge session player in Nashville now and has been for years. If I'm not mistaken, he was the band leader and the beat drummer for Keith Urban forever. And he probably still is. But he played with Christian bands like White Heart, and I saw him on tour with Michael W. Smith and Amy Grant. And I'm sure he's done more than I even am aware of. But I loved his style. He was just in the pocket. He wasn't a drummer that's like, look at all these neat things I can do. He approached everything with a, how do I serve the song? How do I serve the artist behind the drum kit? And most of the time, that's just being a solid pocket drummer. And so I loved that. And then there were a couple other guys like Louis Weaver from Petra. I'm dating myself so badly in this conversation we're having. And David Huff who played with Michael W. Smith for a while, and then him and his brother Dan Huff had the band Giant, like early 90s, I think, kind of was that era. Anyway, so those are kind of some of the guys that way back when, and then of course the guy that taught me my first groove, Dave Van Fleet, he's actually has an outreach to homeless people in New York City. That's what he's done for the last however many years. So he's inspiring on that level. But he was the one that came in and just broke it down for me, 1, 2, and taught me how to do that stuff. So that was a huge influence for me. And then also what he was listening to, I was like, well, he's cool, so I'm going to listen to this because this must be cool too. And then now in terms of like people that are doing it like in the mainstream, probably my biggest and favorite in that department would be Josh Dunn from 21 Pilots. I'm a huge fan of his playing style and the way that his drumming contributes to the whole composition of the song. Like if you played something different, it wouldn't sound like the same song. He's just such a musician with it. And I absolutely love that. And then man, I'm inspired by, I don't even want to start naming names because I'll leave somebody out and feel bad about it later. But all of my YouTube friends, like I'm just at different levels, I'm inspired by what they're all doing. From the beginners to the guys that are playing out, and all of our artists that we have signed with Attic Custom Drums are phenomenal drummers, and I watch them and I'm just like, oh my gosh, guys are amazing, and it gives me a place to like not as a competition thing, but it's like I can gives me the desire to keep wanting to notch it up a little bit each time. These guys are so committed to their craft, and that's an inspiration, and they're great people, and that's inspiring too. Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about drumming. It's the community side of it too, and learning from people, because it's like a conversation. And everybody's conversation is a little bit different. You're like, wait a minute, I like that. Let me add that to what I'm doing.
Yeah, and the other thing that's great too is I've talked to so many people that have been like, it's been a back and forth. Hey, how did you do this thing? Whether it's a drumming thing or a video thing, a lighting thing or an editing thing, and everybody's super cool about like, oh yeah, man, I'll show you how to do that. And it's not like, no, that's my little trade secret, and I'm not gonna tell you because then you'll know. And so just that ability and that willingness to share, to help everybody grow. And sometimes for me, the most flattering thing is when I see somebody doing something that we've been doing. Like, cool, man, that means they dug it. And they wanted to emulate it. I love it. Anytime I see somebody, not every time this happens, it's not us, but there's been a handful of times where I'm like, hey, I dig the new moving camera, like the handheld, that's awesome. And they're like, yeah, like we love that on your channel. And so I got my wife to hold a camera while I played drums too. I'm like, that's awesome. In fact, one of our good friends, Marcus, his channel now is Marcus and Mayhem. He got a little moving thing and he called it the Loretta 2.0.
I love that about your drum covers too, Eric. It's like you get different angles. It's like it can start here, start there, and like, man, like I think that's what really gets you into your drum covers too, along with your playing, because you're killing it on the drums, but the special effects is like, it's cool, man.
It's fun. I like to see, we have a background in media and theater, so like it's fun to, and Loretta has a fun time getting creative. We've got a little gimbal, a handheld gimbal, and she's really good about it. And sometimes she reminds me that we have to do stuff. She'll be like, have you been practicing? Are you ready? Are you ready to film? You know, like, no, I got to do it. But I'm glad you like, that's encouraging, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you enjoy the way we put them together.
You're welcome, man. And do you mind walking us through how you would create a drum cover?
Yeah. So I'm kind of type A in personality in terms of I like to plan stuff out. I feel like if I have a plan, I can change the plan, but it keeps me, this is just for me. Other guys do it differently, but like if I kind of know what's coming, I know what I'm rehearsing, I know what I'm filming, and then I can shift on the fly if I need to and change a song here or there, which we just did. I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this one anymore. And Loretta's like, we don't have a Thanksgiving song. So we found a Thanksgiving song. And, but so normally I have it planned out for months and months at a time. So I basically just pick songs that I like, songs that I think are fun, songs that speak to me on a personal, emotional, or spiritual level. And then once I have picked them, I have a playlist in Spotify, and especially during the spring and summer months, I'll just play those on repeat, the next 10 on repeat while I mow the yard or do weed eating or I'm working outside, and kind of get it into my head. And then I'll work on 2 or 3 of them at a time. I'll sit down and I'll practice. And some of them come easier than others. And then once we're ready, I set the cameras up, and there's a couple of cameras I try to change around a little bit because I get bored with the same shot, except for Loretta, because Loretta's shot is always changing, and I love that. In fact, sometimes I'm like, let's just use that one. Let's just do that for the whole thing. I just kicked my camera. And so then once we've filmed it and I'm happy with the take, it's all one take. I mean, it might take me 6 to get one that I like, but even though we're cutting back and forth, it's all from the same take. So it's live in that sense of the word. Then I'll mix it back here on this computer. In fact, it's dark now, but I was just mixing the ones we filmed yesterday. And then I take it in and I put it in Premiere Pro and I piece it all together and I go, how much work do I want to make for myself? Do I want to put little filters and doodads in it, or is it fine just to have like this is the way we shot it and this is it, you know? It just depends on the song. It depends on kind of what I'm feeling in a moment. And then usually we're working like 3 to 4 weeks out from ourselves. So we just filmed our Thanksgiving cover. So we're 3 deep into November already with content we've created.
Nice. But
yeah, did that answer the question? I feel like I rabbit trailed and stuff.
Hey, you answered it.
Okay.
And I also wanted to ask, like, how did you come up with the idea for drums and bass collaboration covers? Because I've never seen that before until I saw it on your channel.
Yeah, I think we did one. It's been a while back now with another YouTube drummer, Blake Nunn Drums, and he's a pretty talented dude. Like, he's a good drummer, and he plays the bass too. And we were working on a collab, and he just said, hey, what if we did it like this? And I'm like, yeah, man, that's totally cool. And so that's how that went down. I have another friend that I went to youth group with way back in the day who's a phenomenal bass player. And I would love to do one with him at some point. So yeah, that one turned out really, really good. I was really happy with that one. So, and then I've got a couple guitar playing friends, and we'll do that one we just recently did with my buddy from high school. So we're old friends, not just because we're old, but because we've known each other for a long time, over 30 years. And so that's always fun. He's recently just kind of like rediscovered his passion for playing and is starting to take lessons again. And so it's fun for us to collaborate and to grow together as we do those things. Yeah.
Nice. And I also saw, is it a bass reaction video that you do?
We've been doing some like reaction videos lately, and a lot of them have been for 2 or 3 Japanese bands, which are phenomenal. As a drummer, even if it's like not like in my wheelhouse of something that I feel like I can play, it's just so amazing to watch these bands, and not just the drummer, but to watch how they interact as a unit and create their music. Love Bites, Bandmade, and One OK Rock, 3 phenomenal Japanese bands. And then there's another band, 3 sisters from Mexico. Their band's called The Warning, and they're spectacular as well. And in fact, I just a couple weeks ago recorded a cover from that band, and so I'm excited about that one. So that'll go up later. But so we've been doing some reactions to those, and some to Alif Fatah, who's an Indonesian guitar player. He just sits there with his acoustic guitar and is ridiculously talented. So those have been fun to do, just kind of something different for me and different for the channel. So that's always exciting. And then I'm going to take a couple weeks off from that, and I'm trying to come up with some short format drum lesson content. Not because I think people need to learn from me, but because I feel like somebody that's just starting out, I can offer them some easy things to learn and get some wins under their belt, as they learn the instrument, right?
And while we're talking about growth from where you started to now, what are some tips that you could share so upcoming drummers may learn from some of your experiences that you've learned over the years?
Yeah, I think don't be afraid to sound horrible. Don't be afraid to fail. The first time I played drums in church, which is something I've done from the beginning till now, I still play regularly at our church, and I love doing that. The first time I played in church, the pastor, after I was done, and I was so nervous, Sean, I was shaking so badly, I couldn't hold the hi-hat closed. The cymbals were just chattering as my leg vibrated on the pedal. And it was so bad. Even in the moment, I was like, that was bad. And the pastor said, "Thank you for your availability."
Wow.
Which was polite church speak for that sucked. But we appreciate you being willing to step up. But he continued to give me a chance to play. And one of the guys that headed up the youth band at the time gave us all a safe place to fail. And I think if you don't learn how to fail, you don't know, and you don't learn what's not working, you'll never learn what does work. And so don't be afraid to sound bad. Don't be afraid don't be afraid to be playing at a 10 when you're just at a level 2. You know what I mean? That's okay. That's okay. You're not going to be Buddy Rich, after your first lesson, unless you're just gifted that way. Everything that I do remotely well is come with a lot of work and a lot of practice. So I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to put the time in. One of the things I think our culture suffers from, particularly in the United States, is we just want to be the rock star, right? We want the destination, we want the goal, but we don't want to put in all of this work that comes in front of that to be there. I taught a lesson once to a guy who was around my age years and years ago, and we did one lesson, Sean, just one, and his question was, when do I get to play in a band?
What?
And I was like,
one lesson?
well, you eventually, you could right now, it might suck, but but you can play whatever you want, but we so have this microwave mentality. I want to play the drums like a pro, but I don't want to practice. I want it now. And so if you'll consistently practice, you might not see huge improvements from session to session, but if you look back at it over months, you'll start seeing, oh, wow, what I'm doing now is way better than when I was here. And then the same from that point, moving forward. Even just, if I go back and watch our first couple of covers where I hadn't played in a couple of years, to what we're doing now, I'm encouraged. I'm like, oh, I'm playing way tighter. I mean, not always perfect, but like I'm playing much tighter than I was, almost 4 years ago when we started the channel. So that would be my biggest advice. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to put in the work, and have fun doing it. It should always be fun. I had this big amplifier and another dating myself thing and a cassette player, and I would turn that on as loud as I could. I had ear protection, and I would play with songs that I loved, and so it was always fun. It was always fun for me. So that's important.
Nice, Eric. And I know that encouraged someone, and that even made me think about when I just started, and two of my teachers, Eric Lane and Mr. Earl Bennett.
Yeah, Earl. Oh gosh, dude, one of the guys that I have so much crazy respect for. We're friends, and so I have a lot of respect for him as a person, but just as a player too, man. Oh my gosh, dude is phenomenal.
They both were on me about that. They're like, hey, don't be afraid to mess up. Like, just try. And every week, eventually, you'll start seeing growth. And it was a girl that kind of had the mentality like what you were saying about the guy who wanted to be in a band. After the first lesson, she really gave up the drums because she was mad because she couldn't play one of the grooves. And she was like, I might as well throw these sticks. I'm not going to get it. And Eric at the time, he said, you can. He was like, what is that going to do? And he told me, he said, Sean, he said, you got to crawl before you can walk. And I took that in, and I just said, even if I mess up, keep going. So I definitely feel where you're coming from on that. You got to be afraid. No, don't be afraid to fall. But even if you fall, pick yourself back up and try again. Yeah, and then the longer you do it, the better you'll get at covering mistakes, and the better you'll get at just laughing at yourself. Yeah. I'll try something. I'll hear something in my head during a rehearsal at church and try it, and it's train wreck from the beginning. And then I'll just as I continue to play, I'm like, that's me, and I'll just laugh while I'm playing, and everybody gets a kick out of it. But like at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that happens in a rehearsal? You didn't do what you wanted to do. So you simplify. Come back to simple. You can never go wrong with simple. That's true, because our bandmates are not going to stop us and say, wait a minute, that don't sound like the record. Like, nobody's going to do that. Right, yeah, exactly. And there's so many reasons why it might not sound like the record other than what you're playing, Right. But yeah, that's cute. Did that person end up walking away, or did they keep trying? Oh, she walked away. She never picked up drums again. Oh, man, that's a bummer. So that was like, because that'll follow that person with everything they do, because no matter what you do, there will be some sticking point where you're like, oh man, I can't get it. This is hard. So you can either stop and go back, or you can keep pushing until that wall comes down and you move, past it. So I hate that person gave up. That's sad. Me too. You're right. And that's just life in general. Like, nobody can just pick something up unless you're gifted and know how to do it right then and there. Yeah, exactly. I knew a guy like that. He was a really nice guy, but that really irritated me. He'd be like, oh, what is this, a banjo? Huh.
okay, you know, I mean, he could just whatever it was, and he could sing his drums too. He could pick it up and just play, and I'm like, man, that's next level stuff. Like, I don't think most people are like that. I think most people work at it because they love doing it, and they get better at it the more they do it. I think the people that are just like, look at it and figure it out like in a millisecond are kind of like anomalies, the freaks of nature.
Right. It's a kid on YouTube. He's a YouTube drummer. His name is Justin Wilson. Like,
I'm not familiar with him.
I think he's been playing since he was like 2, and now he's like 6, and he's like a pro at 6. I'm like, dang.
Man, that's impressive. That's impressive, and a little discouraging. Man, I would at 2. I don't even remember being 2. I
don't either.
I can't imagine having played an instrument from that time. That's crazy. I was 12 when I started.
Well, I was 21.
Oh, okay. So so 7 years, right?
Yes, I've only been playing 7 years.
That's awesome, though. That's really cool. And kudos to you for starting even at 21 to not feel like, well, I didn't learn it as a kid, so I guess I can't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's easier to learn when you're younger because your mind's just a sponge. And I think it's harder to learn stuff the older you get. Not that you can't, it just takes more discipline. So that's awesome, dude. That's exciting. I love that.
Thank you. I think like when you're a kid, people have more grace for you.
Yeah.
Like if you mess up as a kid, it's not as bad. But if you mess up as an adult,
yes, you know, I used to at our church in Lexington for 4 years. I directed these children's musicals that we had, and we had 2 age groups, the elementary through middle, and then like late middle through high school. And anytime I had you kids coming from the younger kids up into the older kids musical, I would always start every summer with who's new to the older kids musical, and you would get like 10 hands. And I'd be like, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. And I'd say the good news is I love you, and I'm glad you're here. We are going to have a lot of fun this summer. The bad news is you're not cute anymore, so you have to be good. You back here, if little Timmy forgot his lines, parents are like, oh, that's cute, he's nervous. When you're 15 and you forget it, they're like, oh, that's embarrassing. You know, like, yeah. So yeah, you do get a lot more grace when you're younger and you're learning something. That's true.
I think that might be the reason. I feel a little bit better now about that. So, like, when you were 12, did you ever have any of those moments? Because I know you talked about was it the pastor allows you to have a lot of grace, or was it like the minister of music? Okay.
The music pastor, yeah.
Music pastor. So, did you ever have any of those moments where like you felt embarrassed, like, oh man, like I messed up? Like, do I just keep going, or?
You mean while I'm like in the middle of playing?
Yes. Like outside of one where you were shaking your hands, did you ever have any moments where you're like, I hit a brick wall, like this is hard?
For me, the kind of music that we've always played in church, I guess when I was younger, everything was challenging, right? The church I went to an Assemblies of God church, and so there was and the pastor was older, so there was a lot of like that old time 2/4 Pentecostal stuff. You know, the old hymns, you know, there's power, you know, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. So it was trying to keep time and how to make the verses feel different from the chorus when you could just play boom, boom the whole time. That was a challenge. Staying in time was a challenge because nobody said, hey, play with a metronome, get used to keeping time. So to the best I could. But there's so much water under the bridge since I started. I feel like I've just always been surrounded by good people that never made me feel bad about sounding bad. You know, we just kept working until it sounded good. I think I'm my own worst critic, for sure. I think we all are. I think that's, you know, so it's good that when you're learning that to have people that are great, give you a lot of grace and are patient with you as you learn. Trying to think if there was any moment where I was just like, oh my Lord, I'm so embarrassed. I used to get embarrassed when I dropped sticks.
Oh yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, look, you get up here and try to not drop a stick ever, you know, when you're moving around and stuff. I dropped a stick just a couple weeks ago at church. We weren't even playing. I was just counting us in. And I was like, 1, 2, 3, oh no.
Oh.
And it like fell in such a way I couldn't reach it, so I had to grab another stick. But it caused a pause. And everybody, like, and the whole band looked at me like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it's even funnier in the live stream.
My worst stick dropping story was, I think this was like when I was just starting to play, and I was playing, and somehow the drumstick flipped out my hand and headed towards the piano player. And like she stopped playing and she ducked, and she looked back at me like, "Did this just happen?"
This is somebody throwing stuff.
And like the whole band stopped and looked and like, "Are you okay, Sean?" I said, "Yeah, the stick flew out my hand."
I'm totally good. I did have a moment one time, and this is just totally a fluke. I'm not a stick trick person. Once in a while, you'll see me do like the simple, like, rotate the stick in between my fingers type of thing. But I was playing at church, the stick went up. Like, it didn't catch a tom and go out. Somehow I just lost it. Oh. And just instinctively, I reached my hand out, and it landed right in my hand.
Nice.
I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Never happened. It'll never happen again.
Man, like, that would have been cool in the drum video, too.
That would have been awesome. See, we're pretty low in here. Like, in the videos, the dramatic looks way bigger than it is. Like, I'm only 5'6". I have about this much space between my head and the ceiling.
Wow.
So if anybody walks in here that's 5'8" or taller, you know, they have to, like, do this. I'm like, please watch your head. I don't want you to cut your head open on a light or something.
Like, I'm 6'3", so I'll be one of the guys there.
Oh yeah, we'd be sitting down for sure. so you didn't have to like hold your head completely sideways to fit into the. It really is, but it was built. It wasn't built with people in mind. This used to be a room my great grandmother slept in, and there's a little window behind the banner back there, and there's a chicken barn outside behind that. And she stayed in here and had that window so she could see if there was a fox or a weasel getting into her chicken coop.
Wow.
So she wasn't a very tall woman, apparently.
Do you mind telling me about what inspired you to create the Backbeat?
Yeah. First of all, like, I like connecting with people on a personal level like that. I had thought about it. I had been toying around with that idea pretty early on in making content for our channel. But then some other people started doing it. Drumman 190 started his 5 strokes at 5, was doing a great job with that. And I think Earl Bennett was doing some interviews too. So I kind of pulled back the idea until I could be like, how can I do it just differently? Because I wanted to do it because I thought it would be fun. and it is. But I didn't want it to just be like, I didn't want to take away from what Drum Man was doing. I didn't want to take away from what Earl was doing. And I realized like Earl has his own approach to it. Drum Man has his own approach to it. Drum LCK had done some. He had his own approach to it. Ash Wells does his now, and he has his own approach. So it's like, okay, I just didn't want to be white noise, you know, another voice in the chorus, so to speak. I just tried to ask some different questions and let it be real conversational. And then I think anytime anybody does interviews, the personality of the person doing the interviews also creates a tone that makes it different from somebody else. Even if you ask the same questions, the way I converse with people is going to be different than the way the next guy or gal converses with people. So already you kind of have a different tone just with that. So I did kind of copy Drum Man's format, like with the Zoom and the two people being up on the screen at the same time, you know, them and me. And but it's just been a fun thing to do, and people that I've communicated with back and forth on YouTube, to sit down and face to face with them, you know, for a minute that's been one of the most fun things. Definitely my favorite thing about the interviewing is getting to talk in real time with people that it almost feels like you're meeting a celebrity. Like when you get on a video chat like this with somebody that I had watched their videos and like loved what they were doing, and then I'm like, you feel kind of starstruck. It's such a funny thing, but it's neat. It's almost surreal. And anyway, but I love it. That's one of my favorite parts.
It definitely feels surreal, like what you're saying when you're watching somebody play drums, and now you get a chance to get to know the person behind the drums.
Yes, yeah, and all their little personality points. Yeah, because there's stuff that you get to draw out when you're talking that you don't always see behind the drums. You know. Obviously, because it's a different way to communicate, right? With you.
What is your favorite gear that you use for gigs, drum covers, and church, and why are those your go-to gears? Yeah,
so Only Gear's a little different. We are working with a local artist right now, which is exciting. We've got a 3 dates coming up in November, so I'm excited about that. So let me see if I can at least break this down. Church, I've got my Tama kit over there. My favorite piece of gear over there. Man, this is hard. I've been thinking about this, and this is tough. So, okay, let's back up. In the studio. It's hard to pick a specific favorite thing. So, obviously my Attic Custom Drums 6x13 maple snare that I'm playing is one of my favorites. Right now I'm playing a drum throne by a company called Star Favor Music. And that's going on the road with me too. So I'm really digging that. But like drums, I love drums. They're a very important part of what I'm doing. I do here in the studio, and it comes with me live too. I have this Sabian 21-inch hand-hammered Rob Bell ride. It is hands down my favorite ride cymbal I've ever had in my entire life. So that's kind of studio and live. We're building a kit for the live gigs. So that'll be an Attic Custom Drums kit. And then at church, this is such a silly thing. I'm really enjoying our drum baffles, like our little sound baffles that we have. I think they look cool, which is so dumb. But I do. I think they look really, really neat. So that's hard to narrow it down to one thing. I like, again, the throne. I think is such an often overlooked piece of equipment because they can be expensive, and it's like, well, I could spend this much on a throne, or I could buy a cymbal. And the older I get, I guess, the more I appreciate my butt being comfortable when I'm sitting behind the kit for an hour, and not hurting my back and stuff. So that's important. So this has been a real comfortable drum throne. I'm really enjoying it. I'll tell you the story really quick about this beautiful kit. You can't really see it real well, but this is a Saturn Mapex Evolution birch and walnut kit. And the reason I want to tell the story is because it's such a blessing. It's just such a crazy story. I had the Tama kit, which is at church now. It was a Superstar Classic, I think is the model. And it's special to me because it was similar to a kit that my son and I had been looking at before he passed. And so I bought it. So it's at the church now, but Loretta and I were talking about getting a new kit and trying to decide what to get. And I was going back and forth between the Mapex and the Tama Star Classics. And I was talking with a friend of mine who was playing the Mapex at the time. And just what did he think about it? What were his opinions on, these and that? These and that. That's good English. And so anyway, ultimately, he calls me one day and he says, when are you thinking about pulling the trigger on this drum kit? I'm like, well, dude, I'm not sure. Like, because it's not a need. Like, it's a want. And if I can figure out how to do it without financially crippling us for 6 months, then I'll do it. So he calls me back a couple days later and goes, hey, I really felt like I was supposed to buy this kit for you. And so he bought us this kit, and it's amazing. Like, it's a beautiful kit. I absolutely love it. And what the plan is when we're able to build a Attic Custom Drums kit for the studio, the Tama kit we're gonna give to our nephew who wants to learn to play, and we'll also do something with the Mapex that we can keep paying it forward with on that. But it's a beautiful kit. Like, I love it. I have to do very little to it. I put it up to the cover with it out of the box with no tuning. Like, they tuned them really well in their shop, and but it's a special story because it's, the friend of mine that did that for us is just a really nice guy, and I'm thankful for him, not just because of that. I'm just thankful for his friendship. He's a really cool dude. And anyway, so yeah, there's a long-winded answer with no real specific, what is my favorite piece of gear?
Yeah, that's okay, Eric. I mean, I think every piece of your gear means a lot to you. And that's okay. Tell me about your most memorable moment in your career so far.
Ooh, okay, let's see. All right, so can I split this into 2 times?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, before North Carolina and after North Carolina?
Yeah, we can do that.
So before we moved, before Loretta and I started dating, I had let's see, well, it was 2016 is when my son passed, and I had some friends who had given me some theater gigs, and one of those gigs ended up being, hey, we're doing American Idiot by Green Day, the Broadway version. Do you want to play drums? And I was, at first, I was like, yeah, that sounded cool. And it sounded like a rock show, which it was. And then I was like, well, I started looking at the song list, like, it was 22 songs, and I only knew one of them.
Oh, no.
And I was like, man, this is a lot of material. I had a lot of time, but it still seemed intimidating. And I was kind of like, it had just been like a year since my son had passed at the time. And so I was still like kind of in this funk, a justifiable funk, and but then one of those songs was one of his favorites to play on the drum kit at home, which was 21 Guns. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this show. Like, how can I pass up an opportunity to play 21 Guns this many times in front of an audience, you know? And so it was a lot of work. It was a lot of like discipline and on my own time work. There weren't a lot of rehearsals with everybody. There was a small handful. So 98% of the work was all just me in a basement with my drum kit and just working out the song. And I listened to nothing but this album for like 3 months. I wouldn't let anything else into the brain other than these Green Day songs. And man, it was such a blast. Like, we were part of the show. We weren't just like pit orchestra. It was a 4-piece band. And it was such a blast to play a rock show. Like, I had so much fun and I made some money, which was even better. Then we've been doing the Drumatic, which it's been a highlight. It's just been so much fun. I will continue to do it as long as I am able to do it, and which hopefully is for a long time. And then in the last like couple months, I had reached out to the guy who's our music pastor at church. He plays out. He's a keyboard player, super talented. And I said, hey man, what do I need to do to get connected and start playing out in town? You know, just to make some extra money playing some gigs. And he's like, we just need to go to a couple shows and start introducing you to some people. I'm like, cool. And before we still haven't done that yet. A guy who comes to our church, and I never reached out to him because honestly, I was just like, I had seen some of his videos. I'm like, oh, he's got much better players in his pocket than me. So like, I kind of felt like he was like, not because he gives off this air. He's a very humble guy, but just because of what I saw in the music, I was like, oh, this is out of my league. Like, I need to look over here, you know, or whatever. But we ran into each other at the grocery store. He's like, hey man, would you want to play with me? Basically, and I was like, sure, man. So we played a gig in Knoxville, Tennessee. And it was such a blast to be playing live again. And he apparently liked what I was doing. So he's like, hey man, I've got more gigs coming up. So that's been, this side of the move from Kentucky to North Carolina has been a real boost of confidence for me. And it's been a lot of fun to work with an artist and to try to like get him what he wants and what he's hearing in a song and craft those things. So I'm really looking forward to 10th, 11th, and 12th of November. We're going to be in a couple different places in North Carolina, and we're going to be in Virginia. So I'm excited, and I'll have an Attic Custom Drums kit for that gig too. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, so those kind of been the two big peaks for me personally as a drummer.
Right, that's awesome. And how is it like touring with a band?
Well, so it was just, since I've just done it the one time, it was a day trip, but it was such a trip, man. We had such a blast. It was me, the artist Barrett Davis, super talented guy. I can send you a link to his stuff, really, really great stuff. And then a guitar player. So it was just a 3-piece band. We just had fun getting to know each other as we drove to and from Knoxville, which is about a 3-hour drive from here, setting up and playing together for the first time. Like, Barrett and I rehearsed a little bit. The guitar player was just such a great musician. He would just watch Barrett's hands on the chords and he would just solo over the top of it. I was so impressed with the professionalism of how it all went down. So I'm looking forward to having, it'll be different. I've never really toured on that level, like being gone for days at a time. So I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to just be playing, man, you know, and like, it's exciting to play in here, but it's like a different level of creative fulfillment. to go work with other musicians and play. Playing in church is a different level of creative fulfillment. You know, playing in the studio is different. Playing live with another band and traveling is a different level of creative fulfillment. So.
Okay. I look forward to seeing the shows too.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm pumped out of my mind. I can't believe it. So, in fact, I have a lot of work to do, but with it before that.
It's fun work for you.
It is fun work. It's definitely not like, oh man, I got to work out some of these tunes. It's like, yeah, I get to play the drums, man.
And what are a few of your goals for the future with your channel, drumming, and overall just life?
Yeah, basically, I want to take over the world. Okay. No, I'm kidding. The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world. So for the channel, we just want to keep having fun doing it. We like to try new things. We did a song battle, a Christmas in July song battle that our good friend Drums by Ash Wells facilitated for us. He's always so helpful. We're like, okay, here's ways we can improve that and do that periodically to change it up. In the new year, I hope to do another Eric's New Look video, which was just such a silly and fun thing to do, where Mom and Loretta were involved, and I would just come running into the room with different stupid outfits on, and then let everybody vote what their favorite was, and then I did a drum cover with that ridiculous outfit on, or costume, whatever it was. I want to do another one of those. I want to do another song battle with Loretta because that's super fun. There'll be more collabs, and then I just hope that we just see more like meaningful growth in terms of the kind of content we're putting out, the level that I'm playing at, and then if growth number-wise comes with that too, awesome. That's cool. And then in terms of I'm hoping for personally that I get to do even more with Barrett and even some other local artists. There's some really talented people here in this part of North Carolina. It's a very artistic community. And so some real talents. We just did a cover for another local artist, Cody Hale, super great country artist. Love his stuff. Would love to sit in with him too. But I'm really excited about kind of building this relationship with Barrett and seeing where that takes him, and just to be a part of that journey on any level is just a super exciting opportunity and a super cool privilege for me.
That's awesome, Eric. Do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I do. It kind of is going to sound like a funny joke at first, and it is funny, but stay with me. Years ago, I was playing golf with my dad, a sport I only learned so I could do it with Dad, and I just wanted to get good enough that he didn't get mad. Not like he was an angry person, but I didn't want him to have to go, oh, just pick it up and walk. Just forget hitting it. Just let's go. We're holding people up. So I achieved the goal of being able to play just well enough that we could keep moving, right? So one day we were playing, and I had this pretty long putt, and it just stopped like 2 inches short of the hole. And the line was good. I just didn't hit it hard enough. And my dad said, he said, son, and anytime he started with that, I was just like ready. As an adult, I was like ready to receive wisdom. And he said, 100% of all short putts never make it to the hole. And I was like, well, yeah, right. And it made me laugh. And as I thought about it, I was like, that's actually, even though it's a humorous way to say it, that's actually a fantastic life principle. Go hard, go big, or go home. Like, if you have a goal, if you have a dream, and I believe that God has put those dreams inside of us for a reason. They're not just there by random. You're meant to pursue those and step into the destiny He has for you. So swing hard, swing for the fences. Better to hit past the hole than to fall short of it. So whatever that dream is or that goal is, go for it with everything that you've got. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to put the work in getting there. But don't stop just short of it. Step into the destiny that God's created you for.
Man, that's deep, Eric. I'll have to write that down because I play golf too.
Yeah, nice. So now you'll think of it every time you putt short. You'll remember that.
I mean, it makes so much sense. Like, just as a life quote and as a golfer, I get it.
Yeah. The line was good. Like the ball was going in the right direction. I just didn't hit it hard enough. Yeah. It's a good metaphor.
It is. Yeah. Thank you for coming on to Behind the Music, the show where we interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I hope that someone was blessed by Eric's wisdom because I know I was.
Well, man, thank you. That's really sweet of you to say. And thanks for thinking of me and asking me to be a part of it. I truly am honored. It's been a blast.